Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the BGT Special. Now there is time to discuss some action on the field after all the drama that kicked off the new year for the Indian cricket team, and quite an eventful day in Sydney as we start the final test of the Border Gavaskar Trophy. This is Vinayak. Today we have Mihir Vasavda and Amit Kamath joining, and we'll hear from Sriram Veera as well towards the end of this podcast. Quite an eventful day after Jasprit Bumrah walked out to the toss as we had reported yesterday. So not much of a surprise there, but indeed it's official now that Rohit Sharma has quote-unquote opted to rest for this match, and India won the toss, opted to bat first on a very green wicket in Sydney. Something Justin Langer said that it's the greenest that he's ever seen a pitch here, and it turned out to be quite spicy indeed, with India getting bowled out for 185 and some dramatic moments at the end of the day with Bumrah getting Khwaja in the 3 overs that India managed to bowl. Lots to discuss. Mihir, quite the day.
And an unexpected one too, right? Like you mentioned, the pitch, everyone is talking about how it will end up assisting spinners. And there's no sight of it today, in fact. Day one, the green cover looked quite incredible on the pitch. Like the commentators also said, it was a very good toss to lose. Australia made the most of it. We've spoken a lot about Rohit Sharma and him not being there also. I think his absence also is towering right now, because him not being there batting wise hasn't really solved India's problems. It's clear now. I mean, everyone looked pretty much the same as they were in the earlier tests. Similar mode of dismissals. Everything was, it's, Groundhog Day all over again. Very underwhelming. I mean, we'll come to it, of course. Rishabh Pant doing all the hard work and then giving his wicket away. Kohli again poking outside off. Same type of dismissal. Shubman Gill, one would like to cut him some slack, but, well, there's only so much you can do in terms of leniency with the current Indian players. It's kind of depressing the way the batting's going on. But yeah, I guess that's how it will be in the next few months until the whole transition phase actually ends with this team.
Yeah, Amit?
I'm just wondering ki agar after the fourth test, if Gautam Gambhir had lost his temper and given these guys an ultimatum, and this is what the guys play on, an ultimatum. So, I don't know, maybe he actually has to physically bring in a whip and ask them to perform. I don't know what else or kya kiya ja sakta hai. He's already tried his motivational bad cop 70-minute speech. But after today's performance, what else is left to do? As Mir said, this plane is in turbulence. We've had Ashwin leave, we've had Rohit sit down this test match. We don't know whether Virat is out after this match. So that this team is going to be in flux. But today I think ek thoda sa jhalak dikh gaya ki when all these stalwarts are out, it's not going to be smooth sailing. The rest of the world has spent so much time baying for the blood of these two particular guys. One of them is out and it's not as if it was a magic potion or something.
I'm a little bit guarded today because, of course, the familiar dismissals are frustrating, but the pitch really was quite tough to bat on. The usual cliche is that in Test cricket, you want to wait till both teams bat before you judge what kind of pitch it is. 185, whether it's a good score or not, I think maybe by tomorrow lunch we'll know a little more. But we did see in Perth where, 155 in the first innings or 150 odd in the first innings turned out to be all right because Bumrah did Bumrah things. And I almost thought towards the end of this Indian innings, the partnerships between Bumrah, Siraj and even Prasidh and Washington and all was kind of delaying the number of overs that Bumrah would be able to get at the Australian top order. He did get 3 overs and he did get Khawaja at the end. Some crazy moments there in the last over when Constance was trying to delay the last over and make sure that there is not one more, and then Bumrah got riled up. You rarely see Bumrah angry on the pitch. I think that was one of those rare moments where he actually got into an argument with Constance, and then he comes in and bowls a ripper of a delivery to poor Khwaja, who had nothing to do in all this, ended up losing his wicket again to Bumrah, I think for 6th or 7th time in the series. And Bumrah turns back and gives this stare down to Constance, and the entire Indian team gather and give the young guy a send-off, which is funny because, he's not dismissed. He's still going to come out to bat tomorrow morning, but Constance got a send-off for Khwaja's dismissal. I don't think I've ever seen that in cricket before, where the non-striker gets a send-off for the striker getting out. That is quite funny in the end. Just on India's batting again, you touched a little bit on Rishabh Pant. We did hear, the dressing room stories have been discussed quite in detail, and one of those aspects of the post-Melbourne reaction was, not being happy with Rishabh Pant's dismissal. He showed a very different side to it today. It's kind of a restrained, within his shell sort of Rishabh who took a lot of blows on his body. What do you make of that?
I mean, it was great while he lasted. It was good to, see him grind out. It reminded in a way of Pujara from the previous series. I think I also feel that he looked a little confused as to what approach he should be taking. Maybe he's trying too hard to constrain himself, not play his natural game. One moment he tried, well, it didn't connect and he got dismissed. Like we were discussing early before the podcast as well, it's hard to blame him for today's performance. I saw immediately after he got out, stupid again was trending on Twitter. And I guess it's going to be a thing now because every time Pant does something, that phrase unfortunately is going to, appear from nowhere and trend wherever it's being used. I think Pant, among all the batters, at least he tried. He did what the pitch demanded to grind it out. He took blows, 3 different blows, right? On the head, one on the elbow, on the forearm or something, and then around the abdomen region.
I think Fox counted 12, all said and done, with the abdomens and thighs and all that. They counted 12 blows to the body.
That's insane. So yeah, then clearly is like very Pujara-esque in that sense. It's just that he ran out of patience, I guess. And credit to Australia because they completely choked India for runs today. Till tea session, India were going at 2 or roughly a little more than 2 per over and completely drying up the batsmen, giving them no easy singles too. So it wasn't like, they were rotating strike as well. So, and that's very against Pant's nature. So, yeah, poor guy looked a little confused, I felt at times. He did unleash the shots within him a couple of times successfully. The third time maybe he did that. It wasn't meant to be. Yeah, I mean, you can hardly fault him today, I guess.
Mir, there was a fascinating stat as well of Rishabh Pant playing pull shots against pace. Apparently, this is the first time ever that he's gotten out in Australia playing the pull, and only the third time overall in his career that he's gotten out playing the pull shot. Otherwise, he's kind of, when facing pace, he scored around, I think, 205 runs and had just the 3 dismissals. So he's otherwise pretty well off against the pace and while playing the pull. But as you said, eventually he just ran out of patience, took too many blows to the body, had to play maybe a slightly more circumspect version of himself, which I don't think he kind of is himself convinced by wanting to play.
This is kind of where we are with Rishabh Pant at the moment, I guess, right? What is natural game? What is adapting to situations? It's been the messaging has been slightly off in that sense, predominantly in the last few months in Test cricket. You had Gambhir come out and say that we want to do what we did in Kanpur, but we also want to grind out sessions if we need to. And then I'm not sure if that is sending out the right message to Pant. There is a little bit of confusion, like you said, but I really admired his fight today. Playing the situation, I think, is more important than anything else in cricket, Test cricket especially. And I thought he did that all right. Would have preferred to see a little more counter-attack from him once he got his eye in, maybe like 30, 40 deliveries later. Maybe he could have taken on Webster a little bit more, the fifth bowler, kind of bowled too many overs with conceding too few runs. So that was probably a trick missed by all the Indian batters, not just Pant. We should be clear there. I think Jadeja also was too circumspect. Kohli could never get a move on. That was another troubling sign that if he's leaving balls outside the off-stump, then it seems like his scoring shots, scoring runs percentage is also coming down. So that's all adding up to India's batting woes at the moment.
No, with regards to Pant, right, it reminded me a lot with that whole intent debate that was going on in Indian cricket when Kohli was the captain and Pujara was under scanner. And Pujara, he stuck to his game and eventually he had to make way for someone else. I guess that's the only explanation there for him not being in the team anymore. But yeah, I mean, Pant, I'm guessing he'll get a longer rope right now. Although the fact that the team management had deliberation over his place in this match squad also shows that patience might not be, that high with regards to any player right now, the way the team's performing.
I think for me, the biggest disappointment today was for Virat and Shubman Gill's dismissals, especially Shubman's at the stroke of lunch.
Yeah, truly.
Completely frustrating dismissal, that one. Got riled up by the Aussie fielders for no reason and then ended up playing a rank bad shot last ball before lunch. What about you guys? I mean, didn't really do himself any favor there. Amit?
I think Virat actually, this is the 7th time that he's edged the ball and gotten out behind.
Yeah.
I think I saw on Twitter someone pulled out a stat saying that it was the 21st or the 22nd time since 2021 that he's gotten out like that.
And 7 times just this series in the 4 tests so far.
Yeah.
So I mean, just a stupid thing has become a thing on Twitter. I think every time Virat comes to bat, there is that meme that comes up where he's seen, trying to hit balls on the 7th stump or the 8th stump for drives and ends up getting nicked. In fact, he was very lucky to have gotten that reprieve of that Steve Smith catch. That was one of the talking points that maybe we should get to. It looked like something that will split opinion. Was it a catch? Was it not a catch? Because I saw the replays, I think it was a catch. But yeah, we come to that later. First, I think, just to answer Vinayak's question, yeah, Kohli definitely for me.
No, मुझे लगा touched it. So, I mean, I just felt it did touch the grass. So
Definitely not out for me. Absolutely no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, I'll be split on
sure
that.
That was not out.
Yeah, same. No doubt in my mind too.
Is this like my Virat Kohli bias speaking now? Matlab, kya hai?
This is the Mumbai lobby.
Okay, correct. I need to re-examine my biases and my spectacle number also, I guess.
No, so I think what Simon Toffel's comment to us, it depends on which side you support. It's almost like you could make a case for either of the decisions being right. I mean, if you support Australia, you are going to say that's out. And if you support India, you're saying it's one of those things. 2D evidence for 3D.
Schrodinger's catch?
Yeah, Schrodinger's catch. Nice. 2D evidence for 3D developments is never, that's always been the problem with low catches in cricket. Well, my point there is, there is no way Smith would have been able to scoop that up without the help of the ground. And by that, the catch is not fair at that point of time. The ball definitely touched a little bit of the ground. Maybe he had one finger underneath it. But without the support of the ground and the ball steadying itself, he's not going to be able to scoop that up. So if the turf is helping him complete a catch, then it's not a catch. So that's where I come from. But yeah, that made for quite a controversy. Unfortunately, however, Virat didn't make the most of it, I felt, after again slugging it out for 50, 60 odd deliveries like he did in Melbourne first innings, and then a delivery he could have left, once again went and edged it. The problem, I think, is he has shown the discipline to leave balls outside off stump. But then, like briefly mentioned earlier, where is his runs going to come from if he's cutting out that shot through the offside? And that eventually is getting to him because he's not a big cutter of the ball. And if Australia are not bowling at him, then he's not going to get his flicks and pulls. And that's just eventually his patience runs out because, he can't just stand there all day and leave if he doesn't have other alternatives. The square cut could be handy here, but he doesn't play the square cut. So yeah, that's kind of where Virat is at the moment. Problems.
That could be the headline of the podcast today. Problems. Just one word. Nothing else we need to put.
Yeah, problems. I think it's over to Bumrah again tomorrow too.
Just maybe a photograph of the Indian dressing room there and the headline problems.
We could use that photo that we used in the print today. The one where they're meeting the Prime Minister and everyone is looking like they're at a funeral, forlornly looking into the distance with heaviness in their eyes. That photo was quite funny.
I would assume meeting very important dignitaries is like that, You can't make jokes. You can't reveal your true self. You can't break into a jig or whatever. You have to be very careful about what food that you eat lest you end up dribbling on yourself or whatever, drooling on yourself or stuff like that. So, thoda sa understandable. I know we are veering way off topic, but then it's such a grim podcast that maybe it's okay once in a while.
Well, I happen to think it's probably not as
well
grim.
Done. See, that even got a silent minder, our producer Niharika Nanda, to chip in with a pearl of wisdom, and then she's gone back on silent mode again.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's kind of where we are at. A lot is going to again depend on Bumrah and what he can pull off. On what is still a spicy wicket, could be an interesting first 30 minutes or so if Constance and Bumrah go at it again. It will be interesting to see who comes out on top in that battle. And then, of course, they have to contend with Labuschagne and Smith and Head and the new guy in Joe Webster. So, yeah, India probably don't have enough. But if Bumrah decides to turn up, then it could still be a match. Let's see. That's all from Mihir, Amit and I and Niharika for now. And we'll have Sriram Veera with his thoughts from what was an eventful start to the day, from the toss to the end, the last ball. Even though it was slow going for most part, it was still engrossing Test cricket. So over to Veera, and we'll join you again for day 2 on Saturday. Thank you so much for listening.
Hello listeners, finally we had an all-Australian day. When I mean all-Australian day, I'm not talking about how the cricket went, but how the cricket was played. This was what we expected at the start of the series, when we talked about what the Australian conditions are going to be, theme and all that. But it did happen, but the pitch, it was a surprise at how it turned out. Also the batting from both the teams were left a bit to be desired on the first day. But here, it was a spicy pitch. Even the crowd was largely Australian character. There was a section of India where the flags were waving, but by and large, more Australians seem to have turned up for this day at least. The ball kept moving, the Australians were aggressive, Indians copped a lot on the body, not necessarily by short balls. There were 2 short ones, one to Rishabh and one to Siraj. which got hit on the body, but the rest was that kind of a pitch where we have seen in the 80s and 90s. When you come to Australia, the Indian batsmen are hopping and weaving and getting hit, glares or being given by the bowlers. So in that sense, and Australia on top, the series already on 2-1. And so in that context, it was an all-Australian day. Right at the end, there was a bit of mirch masala with the youngster Sam Constance getting into, and Bumrah getting into each other's face. And then Bumrah took that wicket to take out Usman Khawaja and turned and sort of rode, and you all saw what happened there. So that bit is different from the ancient past when I talk about all Australian day. It's come down to Bumrah again. It came down to Bumrah with a bat to throw his bat around and get 22 runs. And just as he took the last wicket, it's again up to Bumrah. India has to do something tomorrow. It has to come. If he can produce something what he did in Perth with others backed up, but the first lead I suspect has to come from Bumrah, which is going to continue to do something with the ball because there's enough grass cover. There's absolutely nothing abrasive yet. Ball kept moving. Even a 65-year-old ball of Australian kept moving from like a leg and middle to off. And Rishabh Pant was criticized for his shots in Melbourne, put his body online. We had asked him at the press conference, have you ever got hit so many times in a single day? He said, never. But that's cricket. You just have to grit through. And it was one of those days where I felt defense was the better way. There were a few balls early on where I could have attacked on a different day, but today where the situation was, where the pitch was, defense seemed to be more prudent way to approach, he said. And that's what he did. He and Jadeja had a session where the runs didn't come, but then the bowler started, they kept on beating. You see, the ball was moving that much more as opposed to the other venues. So they would push and the ball would beat. And so then when they tried to get fuller, then the Indians had a bit of drive and got a few runs. So it's going to be that kind of an intelligent cat and mouse game tomorrow. Jasprit is a master at it. He cannot do it alone, but the pitch will help. Your Siraj and Prasidh. So it should be an interesting contest. One interesting point that Rishabh Pant said at the end is when we asked him what's your total, what's your feel on the total, Indian total. He said, I don't say it's a par total. Par would be 230 to 250 on this, but something you have to bowl out of a skin, and then it's a competitive kind of a total, but it's not a par total. And one has to agree with it. A 240, 250. If they had stitched up one more partnership, would have been absolutely gem priceless on this track. But as things stand, Indian bowlers have to come. Constance will come hard, try, and then the rest too. So it's going to be a fascinating day by tomorrow. Let's see what happens. Remember, the BGT is still on the line.
You were listening to Express Sports by the Indian Express. This show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Shashank Bhargav. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.